Welcome, everybody, to another special episode of Understable Minds. This is not a regular episode, as the video viewers can tell by the person sitting next to me. We have the one, the only, Mr. 2021 Music City Open champion, Mason Ford, is here. AJ's also here. AJ filling in for the crowd today. AJ Risley is the crowd. My name's Anthony. Mason, you are...
Mason Ford.
You are Mason Ford. You're also new to Team Dynamic Discs. This is obviously your first time on the show. For our audience, this will probably be, I wouldn't say the first time that most of them have heard your name, because you've obviously been playing at a high level for a long time, but you did win a national tour last year. I would guess that was probably on a national scale. Would you say that's most people's first introduction to
Mason Ford?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think I was like a household name or anything. I mean, I still don't think I am.
Okay.
But, I mean, maybe after this year.
Well, maybe after this year. So
I don't know. I mean, I saw you on the Lone Star Classic, and I'd seen you the year before at a few events on tour, but I think Lone Star Classic last year was the first big one on video. And you qualified for the USDGC there?
Yep, I qualified for the USDGC there. That's kind of a homey style course for me, from San Antonio. I drive an hour and I'm there.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of readily available to practice. It's fun, of course, to go and practice too. So
it's funny that you say that you drive an hour and you're there, and it's also readily available. For us, driving an hour to play disc golf is like, what are you doing? There's 100 courses within an hour drive. You should not be going that far.
All caps sigh.
The first time I heard of Mason Ford was I was hanging out in Lindsay Park for some event. I don't remember. I think it was Piney Woods or something like that. I was hanging out with Miles Seaborn, and he was like, you see that kid over there? He's going to be really good one day. And like the next year, you just went off and won a national tour. So he was right, I guess. But yeah, you've been on the up and coming for a while down in Texas. Have you been playing like most of the A tiers of bigger events down there?
yeah, so for most of 2019, and 2018, I just kind of bounced around, stayed in Texas, didn't really venture out at all. I won a handful of bigger B tiers in Texas in 2018 and 2019. I finally got to play the Piney Woods Open, Waco, Texas States, some of the bigger, I guess, A tiers that they have in Texas. And I feel like that was a good way to kind of get my feet wet in what I could possibly do.
Yeah.
So kind of, like I said, our audience, this is probably the first time they're getting to kind of hear more from you. You did an interview with Corey Merle not that long ago. I'm sure a ton of people have seen that, but kind of in so many words, give us kind of your intro to disc golf story, your intro to who is Mason Ford disc golf story.
My intro to disc golf story.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was born and I guess raised in Pipestone, Minnesota. It's kind of funny. Me and Katrina Allen have the same hometown.
Yeah.
Very, very weird, I guess. So I lived down in Harlingen, Texas, very close to South Padre Island, very most southern tip of Texas.
Okay.
So I'm 9.5 hours from Dallas, if that puts it into any perspective.
Yeah. It doesn't.
I think we're
That seems far.
are we 9 hours from Dallas, here?
We're 9 hours from my parents in Chicago here.
But do you know off the top of your head how far we are from Dallas?
I think Dallas is a
probably-
little bit less. I think Dallas is like 8.
Wow.
That's sad.
That's-
Right? That's sad.
That's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. Wild. Okay. Continue.
So my grandfather was a trucker, and he would pick me up down in South Texas and then drive me up to Minnesota for some of the summers.
Okay.
And one of the times, I was pretty big into ultimate frisbee in high school. Me and my cross country team would go and play ultimate against other cross country teams. Nice. And it was just kind of our district's little thing that we had. And my friend from Minnesota was like, hey, do you want to go frolf? I was like, oh my goodness, what is frolf?
What is this?
Like, sure. Like, we don't have anything else to do. It's like,
Right. We're boys. I trust you, but that word you just said is foreign.
So
2 F's in one word. I don't know.
So of course I showed up with my ultimate disc,
Yep.
my Ultra Star,
Oh yeah.
and it's like, yeah, let's go do this. And I show up and it's like, man, you have a small frisbee.
What's that little thing?
Yeah. Like, why is it shaped like that? It's like, well, you throw it like this, and he throws I think he was a lefty, and he throws a lefty forehand. So it even looks more weird to me.
Yeah. Right.
And so I throw mine as like, well, why did mine go a third of the distance? It's like, well, he was kind of new to it too. So he's like, well, I don't know why. I throw it like this and it flies, not like yours. So I was like, oh, okay. So end of the story, go back home. And I took that disc that he was throwing. It was a Champion Boss. So like the worst disc to start with, So
jeez, yeah.
I remember going back to my grandparents' place and like throwing forehand rollers everywhere because I couldn't throw it.
Right.
So I was just rolling it everywhere. And I remember how much fun it was because it flew so different. So it was like mastering a different kind of flight.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I went back to, South Texas down, they call it the Valley, the RGV, the Rio Grande Valley. And it's always windy. And I looked it up. I was like, oh my goodness, there's actually a course there. So I was like, okay. I think I went to Walmart and bought some, little starter pack of discs.
Right.
And every day after my run, I would go back and throw just to do it. And then eventually it got to something that I would go do, on my lunch break to where, I'm 19, 20 years old. I don't know what to do on my lunch break. I'm bored. I'm just not going to sit in my car.
Right.
So I'd go putt or I'd go throw or I'd go, play 6 holes.
Okay.
And then after work, I'd go play around or whatever, maybe just kind of stress relief.
Mm-hmm.
And then played some AM events in, 2016. And just decided to try out my first pro event in 2017. I think it was the 2017 Outlaws.
Okay.
And I actually played, this is funny, with Emerson Keith. And I think we might have tied for 3rd or 4th. And that was my first pro A tier.
Yeah.
Okay. It's funny that you bring up Emerson because when you were talking about like playing a bunch of events in Texas before you go out on the road and then going out on the road and playing well in all these big events, it's like, yeah, that's like the Emerson Keith career path of like, dude played 80 events, all of them in Texas in a year. And like, then he goes out, has I feel like his first big showing was probably at Worlds in, it was 2019, I think, when it was in Illinois. Yeah. And so, I mean, you're right on that same career path of, well, first of all, gotcha, Emerson, because you won Music City. Emerson had a very good showing at Worlds. Emerson has had very many good showings. I don't mean any sort of slights or insults to Emerson. Very nice human being. Very, very good disc golfer. It's just funny.
He still got something to prove.
Right. The parallels between
Emerson Keith. That's the only reason I'm here.
You just
audio stings.
Yeah, the career paths between the two of you are oddly similar, at least from the outside looking in. Would you agree with that? Would you say that that's kind of
for sure? And I think it's just a testament to how big and how good Texas disc golf is. I think it's kind of overlooked. I mean, I feel like anywhere in Texas, you have some 10-15 rated player there. And as a traveling touring pro, you still have to go and average 10-30, 10-40 golf to win an event in your own state.
Yes.
So it's very, it keeps you on your toes and it makes you have to earn it. You don't just show up to a B tier and A tier in Texas and walk away with a 9-10 stroke win.
Sure.
Right. Yeah.
Like you're there having to grind it out and battle it out.
Right. And like you said, like the 10-15 Texas golfer doesn't feel like a 10-15 golfer everywhere else. Like Danny brought up Miles Seaborn. I think he might be a little higher than 10-15. I think, is it Nolan Grider? I think he might be a little bit higher than that, where it's like they could show up to any A tier in the country and win. They could show up on the pro tour and Miles has a few top 10 finishes, maybe some top 5s. Nolan might as well. And like, yeah, it feels like the local pro in Texas is not just a local pro.
Exactly.
It's they're very good golfers. And I think, like you said, that's a testament to how many people are there. And also I feel like you guys have a really dense, the density of your quality courses is higher than a lot of other places, I would think. Where I grew up had a really high density of courses, but they were all like pitch and putts. You could drive 15 minutes in one direction or the other and you'd have a par 54 course. And it was great if you just wanted to go and play. But if you were trying to get better and challenge yourself and play at a high level course, you had to drive 45 minutes, an hour and a half, whatever. This isn't my episode. This is Mason's episode.
But one thing I noticed that seems consistent amongst players, like as they are picking it up and transitioning from recreational to amateur and then even from amateur to pro, but usually before the pro turning pro, is that disc golf just bleeds into like every other little nook and cranny of your life. Like when you're saying I would finish one thing and then go throw. And I started throwing on my lunch breaks, even if it was just 3 holes, 6 holes, or 20 putts, 30 putts. And then from there, it's like, okay, I'm off of work, going to the course to practice putt or until the sun goes down or play around. And that becomes consistent. And it just, that is something that I think is kind of like a good little bit of foreshadowing in a lot of people's careers and experiences. So, so yeah.
Cool. So Mason, like I alluded to at the beginning, like everyone obviously is aware now, you are newly signed to Team Dynamic Discs. This is your first year with us. We're very happy to have you. Hopefully you're happy to be with us as well. But I found it interesting.
He didn't say yes.
He didn't say yes. That's true.
I don't want to be rude and interrupt.
Yeah, for the audio only people, he's staring daggers. He's very pissed to be here.
Yeah, right.
You did the interview with Corey, or Johnny Disc Golf, as some people know him. And in that interview, you said something that was very interesting to me, and I'd like you to expand on it a little bit. He asked you why it was that you came to Dynamic Discs, and you said that one of the big reasons was, and I forget the event, you played on a card with Zach Melton, and you just liked Zach and the vibe that he gave off and his personality, and that kind of helped you maybe become familiar with the brand and kind of the brand's personality, so to speak. And really, my only question is, how much did Zach pay you to say that?
Right, I can just,
because I've met Zach a few times. I can
just see
that's
Zach Zach's like in his corner, just like,
that's right.
Right. Yeah, I've met Zach enough times to know that that's not true. That's got to be a false. You made that up. You were bribed to say that, and I just want to know how much.
Nothing.
No, Zach is great. Yeah, it's interesting that that is one of the reasons, because you, at least from my perspective, that's the first time I've ever heard that, of like, yeah, I met this other person. They were with this company. I really liked that person and the way that they carried themselves. So that just kind of opened me up to the idea. What was before that round, or before that instance, or instances, if it was multiple times, what was kind of your thoughts on Dynamic Discs? Were you aware of the company? Were you familiar with it? Just didn't know? Or what was that like?
Well, I mean, I've always heard of it. I played Waco way back when, and I'd played with Ryan Draper at a bunch of little local B tiers in Texas.
Waco TD, I think, isn't he?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, Ryan Draper was, I would call him a good friend. I mean, I don't know him really, really well, but he was always a good representative of DD too. So he kind of also showed me a little bit, I guess, about their...
Sure. So you were at least familiar with the company and the brand and everything like that. Okay. So then is this, now kind of taking it more to the disc golf side of things, is this, you were with Innova before, was that the first company that you were with, or is this the first time you've had to basically take your bag and, aside from when you had your Ultra Star, completely start over?
Mm-hmm. So when I first started, I bought my little Innova starter pack. Mm-hmm. And then I used to throw quite a bit of Millennium.
Okay.
So,
and they're like a sister company with Innova, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was a good friend of mine. His name was Rudy Martinez, and he was with Millennium for years and years and years. So down Corpus Christi, South Texas, Victoria, there was a lot of Millennium throwers. So I went to Millennium. So they were actually my first sponsor in 2017, I believe it was.
Okay.
And then from there, I can throw 50% Millennium and 50% Innova.
Right.
If I didn't throw, mostly Millennium. Mm-hmm. I was a huge Scorpius thrower for the longest time.
Okay.
And then I was also a huge Greg Barsby fan because I knew he threw the Scorpius.
Oh, yeah.
As are, I think, most people.
Yeah.
Greg's great.
The Barsbarians out there.
Yeah.
So I was a huge Millennium thrower, and then I got with Innova in 2019 or 2020. I
Okay.
can't even remember. And I was still with Millennium.
Sure.
So it was still kind of both ways. I still threw Millennium and Innova. It was still 50-50.
Right.
So it's pretty much, I really haven't experimented with a whole lot of companies. So
Okay.
moving here was, oh shoot, what do I try?
Right. And it's not like going from Millennium to Innova where like if you said the Scorpius, if you were with Innova, I'm sure you could probably still throw the Scorpius.
Yeah.
Whereas now it's all brand new discs. You still have multiple companies that you can choose from, but they're all brand new discs, brand new molds, brand new plastic types,
Right.
and everything.
No Scorpius.
Right. So what is that process for you been like? How do you go about attacking that?
So I guess I've learned part of the changing over, I've learned to stop comparing discs like, oh, this flies like this. So instead of just saying, oh, I need this type of shot and this disc does this type of shot for me.
Mm-hmm.
And, instead of having different stages of wear in a disc, it seems like DDN Trilogy's like, okay, well, this disc does this shot.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to throw, a little bit different shape, I go to this disc.
Do you think that that's because everything is so new to you, and where if you, for example, you threw a Scorpius, you may have had one for 5 years and it could have beat in, and so instead of throwing whatever's a little bit more understable than that, you just have a beat up one. Do you think that if we sit down this time next year, you'll take your Getaway, and instead of having to, if you're looking for a little bit more understable than a Getaway, throwing an Escape, maybe you'll have a beat in Getaway? Or do you kind of like that, having this mold does this shot, this mold does this shot?
I guess yes and no, because I like the Getaway a lot, but if I lose that beat up Getaway, it's harder to replace that beat up Getaway.
Right.
So it's kind of, I know exactly what you're talking about. It's just being new to the team. It's easier to say, well, I have this fresh Getaway and this fresh Escape.
Right.
Like you were saying.
Yep.
And then, I have like a Saint Pro and then a Vandal.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of each have the little steps down.
Yeah. And that probably helps you learn, because instead of taking your Getaway and saying, well, I'll just beat this one up to fly straight, you're now learning 4 different discs at one time, rather than I learned this one disc, I like it, I'm just going to use it forever.
Exactly.
So what's we were talking about the Getaway. That's one that you've told me before this show is one of your favorites. But what are a couple other discs that you're really liking so far?
I've been really liking the Evader too.
Mm.
It seems very similar to the Getaway, just doesn't go quite as far.
Yeah.
So it still has that kind of slightly overstable fade, decent glide to it. I feel like if anything, the Evader has a little bit less glide.
Yeah, I would think so.
But
Getaway has a lot.
But they're just so similar. It's just like I can take a step back in distance.
Mm-hmm.
And, there may be shots where I might throw the Getaway, but not have to throw it as fast as I do the Evader.
Right.
And then another one I've also really been liking, the Maverick.
Mm.
Yeah.
And I know Val, she's throwing a Lucid one and an SE.
Yeah.
And I was throwing the SE one. I think that was one of my first ones that I got.
Those are good.
And it was so flippy for me. It was so much fun to throw.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just picture myself throwing it like at Dogwood.
Yeah.
And all those super flippy lines. And see, that's where it seems just, this is a fun disc to throw because you have to manipulate it. You have to be, I don't know. It's just a fun disc to throw.
Yeah, that's how I felt about it. The disc that I was mentioning during the live shopping today, the first one that I had that's still in my bag, it's like right away. I think we got it in, Danny brought them to us in Jonesboro. And then the next weekend we went to Russellville, Arkansas, and we played a couple different courses. And one of them, Old Post, was significantly more wooded and had like a few tunnel shots I remember that would start left and finish to the right and almost go like uphill a little bit. And so you really did need something pretty flippy. And I just remembered like, oh man, that this disc is perfect. Like I just got this disc and it's made for this kind of hole. oh, and I just threw the only two I have. I'll be right back. I'm going to go back to the tee and throw these two again. Maverick.
It's a good disc. Speaking of Zach Melton, that's his tour disc.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Speaking of Zach Melton, yeah, I mean, it makes sense why you would bring that up. I mean, it's, I think a hallmark of our team and a big quality of our team players is just this, a little bit of like a relaxed feel on the course and off the course. Mm-hmm. And not to say that our team players like take things less seriously than others, but I think there's still that dedication but at the same time, it's a little bit more lighthearted. And so I can see how someone from the outside would view that, observe it, and say, like, that seems like it would work for me. Maybe not everybody, but it's nice to hear that would be something that would work for you.
I also just think it's like, it makes it so much more inviting. Seeing like, well, he's a fun person to be around. And who wants to be around somebody who's a crabby person all the time? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's just seeing that's how he is. And I'd also play with Chris, quite a bit during the year. I think we played at Memorial. I think we played, at a couple other events. But it's like Chris is kind of laid back.
Yeah.
He doesn't get super into it and frustrated and worked up. He just kind of rolls with the punches,
Mm-hmm.
And he's another one. He's just kind of fun to be around.
Right.
And his kind of humor and personality is
right.
And Zach is very same way, he just kind of rolls with the punches and just has fun with everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially, I feel like, those people are good to be around in general, but especially when you're on the disc golf course and if things aren't going your way, and if you just have a card full of people that are all just having a good time, joking around, it just makes it a little bit easier to kind of forget that 15-footer that you just missed or whatever. Whereas if everybody's quiet, everybody's to themselves and you just miss a putt, now the entire time you're walking to the next tee pad, you're thinking about it. The next time you have a birdie putt, it's like, well, I have to make this because I have to get that stroke from 2 holes back. Where if you're all just having a good time, it's just, it helps the atmosphere feel a little bit more relaxed, like you put it. Yeah. That's a good word. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing that I wanted to ask you that I noticed this, and I don't know if it's myself just connecting dots in my own head, but when I look at the way that you throw a disc, if I just watch a video of you throwing, it reminds me a lot of Bradley Williams. And first of all, congratulations, because I think everybody wants to throw the disc and look like Bradley Williams does.
Yeah, he's a cutie.
Okay, that's not what I was getting at, AJ. I was saying that his form
Congratulations.
is very clean. It's very smooth. It's very effective. Is that just because, he does everything so perfectly and you're trying to also do things perfectly? Or did you specifically look at his form and Bradley, because he's obviously a well-known Texas player? Did you look at that and say, I want to emulate this? Or do you have a relationship with Brad? Are you guys just mortal enemies now that you're like on the same level of like, hey man, if I win, that means you don't. And if you win, that means I didn't. So we hate each other.
No, actually, the first Pro Tour event I ever played was me and Brad actually traveled together to Arizona.
Nice.
Okay.
So
enemies then. You guys were just punching each other in the car the whole time.
No, I don't think we're enemies. I think, the story kind of gets twisted a little bit of, oh, well, Brad taught Mason.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
When that's not really the case. Val actually helped me find what works best for me in my throw.
Okay.
And my throw 3 years ago, even go watch the Piney Woods Open. My throw was not very pretty to look at then. Yeah, very, very different. So Val's like, kind of every month was kind of like, oh, well, let's try to change this and see how this feels, or let's try to work on this and then let's see how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of, fixing all these different things, 2-3 months, 2-3 months, 2-3 months. That's what it came out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why we get, me, Brad, Val, Alexis,
Mm-hmm.
Paul, even all kind of have a similar style throw.
Right.
Because Val got a lot of help from Brad, and Alexis got a lot of help from Brad.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling Brad probably tried to implement Paul. And
right.
then the combination of all those leading up to me
that's kind of a good tree to learn from, if you want to break it down like that, of like, oh, these are kind of all the people that have in one way or another, whether directly or indirectly, helped you get there. So, it's a pretty good route of information to go for it to come to you.
I think it's really cool. And most of the time you'll notice that people who have like similar throws, similar forms tend to have like a similar body type as well. And so that's why like I would put Emerson almost in the same category of like that kind of more compact form, not a lot of extra motion, but very efficient and very powerful. It's kind of interesting just to see like the similarities between all of y'all have kind of the same general shape and then also a very similar form. So it just speaks to like adapting your form to your body. I think that's really cool. Did you look out somebody that had a similar body type, or did you just see what works?
I guess I just more or less, like when we were in the field, this seemed to feel a little bit different. And I guess kind of as my form developed, I could feel different parts like, oh, well, I'm doing this and I can feel, myself control the spin more, or, working on my follow through. I could feel how much easier and less stress it was on my shoulder or elbow. And then it just kind of translated to, I guess, what it is now, and just kind of breaking parts down every 2-3 months and giving myself and almost being stubborn with it. Even if I play this tournament, I have to do this, and putting myself through that, even if I'm playing worse. Yeah. And then just kind of building it up, but being stubborn with it at the same time.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I like the way you phrase that too. It's it makes it sound like you're more so focused on the process than the result. Yeah. And the results. And I mean, stubborn can be good. Stubborn can be bad. Rigid can be good and bad in some ways. It just depends on what you're stubborn about. And so, I mean, yeah, if you're stubborn about making strides in process-based goals, then really dig your heels in and put in the work and let the results come to you. And I mean, I'm telling you this, you already know this, but also to everybody watching and listening, that's really when I am giving a clinic or giving advice to anybody, I try to really make them aware of both the process and the result at the same time. So then they can see what's the purpose of the result, and seeing, everything through that lens. And then what's the alternate purpose of seeing things through the process-based lens. And really it's, the process determines the result. So yeah, I mean, I'm here for it,
I think it can also kind of help build confidence.
For sure.
Because, you look back and you see, well, I was 900 rated here. And, I got a lesson from AJ Risley on technical backhand shots, right? Let's just say like, oh, well, what do I need to do to have a more technical backhand to control angle, spin, speed coming in, landing it flat, whatever it may be, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so when I first started this, we went to a field and worked on it. And I kind of grabbed onto, 2 or 3 different things. And I go and I play this tournament. And I did these things terrible. But again, you kind of went over the process and the ending result and kind of being stubborn with it. So I played a tournament 2 months later and I averaged 30 points over my rating. You can kind of see like, well, this is what I was doing. But by being diligent with it and sticking with this, even though I was worse at the beginning, I overcame all those obstacles to get to now where I'm at.
Yeah. I get it. I see what you mean. Yeah, it's right. Like I said, being like rigid in your expectations and what you accept is, that's going to help when you apply that to the process. A lot of times we see people being rigid in their acceptance of results. This kind of mentality. Well, if I'm not first, I'm last. It's like that is very rigid and result based reactionary, reactionary behavior, when really the thing that you control is the process. The thing that the thrower controls is their process, and the result that's left up to everybody else. Because I mean, one thing that we talked about a few weeks ago was how 1050 rated golf stunks. Yeah, it stunk on the Pro Tour. And it's like, well, yeah, on the pro tour, there's like 4 guys that average above 1050. So you're not going to, if compared to them, you're going to miss the podium if you play 1050 golf. And if they're also playing above their average. But then you go back to Texas, and 1050 golf is good at just about every tournament. And then you go to, and then you come up here to Kansas, and 1050 golf like blows everybody, no pun intended, out of the water.
Right. Yeah.
So
1050 golf on the local scene you're almost untouchable no matter where you go. But then once you hit the road, and 1050 golf is like, yeah, you're still playing the same golf. You're still playing really well. You came in 6th place. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Like, you still get a paycheck, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Your name's not on any trophies. You're not even on the lead card, etc. So it's really,
and yet there's still the process that remains. And there's still that carries value throughout all those experiences. So there's a lot that goes into golf. I mean, it's people, you've heard it a bunch of times. It's, it's a game between the ears.
mm-hmm.
It's a very mental game. But that's fine. We can observe that and accept it, and then use our minds to then conquer this game of golf. And so I think, Mason, you're well on your way to conquering the sport, and conquering the sport.
So we were talking a little bit about changes. What are, aside from the company that you will be representing and the discs in your bag, are there any changes that you'll be making either to yourself or to your game or to your anything else for the 2022 season?
So we have an RV. We had an RV since D-Glow last year. So all the events kind of leading up to D-Glow, it seemed like we were just, from hotel to hotel to hotel. That gets expensive quick. And having an RV, exhausting. I feel like all 3 of us just played better. Just having a place to call home on the road, and a place that, we have familiar objects that we maybe have from home.
Right.
And, it's just so much more relaxed. We have a place to go back to. We have a place that we don't have to pack everything up into a car and then drive.
Right. You're not living out of a suitcase anymore.
Yeah. And it's like, it's hard to just, with all of us and everything in the car, hard to just say, oh, well, let's just pull over and sleep. But the RV, it's like, kick on the generator, get the AC blowing.
Right.
We'll, we can sit down and drive 4 hours after the event. Not too much, relax. And then, okay, well, let's, get back on the road at 7:00 in the morning so we can get there and practice before noon, and it's just so much easier to do.
Yeah. Are there any changes to your game that you think you'll make?
I've been really trying to work in a longer forehand.
Okay.
Just because I feel like I have a forehand that I could use, but if I had it a little bit longer and a little bit better angle control, I feel like it'll be more of a weapon. Something to where a hyzer forehand, if I can throw that versus a turnover and control the nose and everything, having to be perfect to come into the green, it's just easier to do.
Right. And it just gives you more tools to attack a course, where if you're at a certain hole and you look at it and you say, I could throw a backhand here. I could throw straight at it. I could throw, there's a big hyzer, or I could throw this turnover line, but for whatever reason, you're just not comfortable with those. Your backhand hasn't been flying well. If you can also say, you know what, I'm just going to flip the switch. I'm going to throw a sidearm on this hole. It opens up the possibility to essentially endless shot shapes and shot types that you can throw. And I feel like at your level, like we were talking about, 1050 golf is great at the local scene, but if you want to compete on tour, you have to play 1050 golf almost. And it's kind of, I don't know if you would agree with this, because, our current world champion threw probably 3 sidearms on tour all of last year, but it almost feels like you have to have that. You almost have to have an unlimited shot tree.
I remember Nate Sexton saying one time, and this, it'll make sense. He said, it's 2018. You need both a backhand and a forehand on tour. 2018. That's when he was saying that stuff. So now it's 2022.
And James
Crazy
proved him
thing.
wrong.
Right.
Way to go, James.
That's James for you. So the forehand, are there any like specifics when it comes to like your practice routine and how you're gauging your progress with the forehand abilities? Is there anything like you can share with us, like how you are, what kind of things you're focusing on in the field or on the course when you're practicing that shot in particular?
So coming from an ultimate background, you get the nose up hyzers,
Yeah.
right? Like
You kind of
that's
have
just-
to.
Yeah, that's an ultimate style forehand. So that has been the hardest for me to break.
Mm,
So there's times when I'm like, okay, I think I'm throwing this on that Anheuser, but I still hit it flat.
mm-hmm.
So there's just a little bit of a learning curve there. And I guess you call them swing thoughts.
Mhm.
So I'm always thinking about the angle I reach the disc back on and keeping it on the same plane until the release. And I feel like that one swing thought has kind of helped me just become more consistent because I know, okay, well, I'm throwing a hyzer. I don't really have to think about that. I'm throwing a hyzer. That's my ultimate throw.
Mm-hmm.
It's like little forehand approaches or Anheuser, little approaches. That's not too hard for me.
Right.
But when I'm trying to throw 375 on a forehand or 400 on a forehand and catching a little bit of an Anheuser is the hardest thing for me to do.
Mhm. Just that little baby flex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Just enough
Mm-hmm.
versus, throwing something a little bit flippier and hyzer flipping it. I'm so much better at that
Mhm.
than catching that little bit of Anheuser. But there's not every hole you're going to be able to hyzer flip something.
Right.
I guess unless you're Big Germ.
Right. Another exception to the rule.
Yeah.
We'll put him up with James Conrad.
Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to forehands, my good friend Brian Earhart put it into terms that I really connected with. And he said that, like throwing an ultimate disc is kind of like cracking a whip. You almost have to like let go of the disc behind your body
Mm-hmm.
and then follow through. And throwing like an overstable, like that chop forehand is a bit like throwing the ball. Throwing a
Oh, I
ball
can see that.
where you're letting go of it rather than behind your body, you're letting go of it in front of your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then he said, to tie it all together, he said throwing a big distance power forehand is both. It's both cracking the whip and throwing the ball. So maybe you could take that into your field work swing thoughts.
I like the throwing the ball because side arming a ball. That's exactly the motion, that it seems to have.
Right. But if you think about like your ultimate throw and that sidearm ultimate
Mhm.
throw, and then you try to throw the ball, it's like, yeah, you can kind of like flick it from second base to first.
Mhm.
But if you're out in the outfield trying to get the guy at home, it's like you better chop that thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, but at the same time, you're not just like standing there and doing like the little touch Anheuser forehand shot where you're like,
It's all
okay,
wrist.
I'm throwing it from center field. Here you go. It's like, no, you're cocking back with your elbow. You're getting your elbow out and then bringing it back in and then chopping. It's
Mhm.
it's very complicated.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it's just it's complex. And so, but the thing is that those complex ideas and swing thoughts, that's what propels you from 1020 to 1050.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mason, 2021 was kind of your first full season on tour. Like you had said, you'd played some pro tour events, you'd played some big stuff before, but that was kind of your first time of leaving Texas and coming back months later. What were your thoughts and kind of your expectations going into that? And then how did actual life on tour kind of live up to that?
So I guess expectations wise, I tried not to have too high of expectations because it's a long season.
Right.
You're going to have ups and you're going to have downs. And I think kind of realizing that before you even start the tour, like, yeah, at one point you're probably going to suck. And then it's all about kind of chasing those little bits and learning from each event to kind of start at the bottom of the mountain and
Mm-hmm.
chip away and then kind of take tad bits like, oh, well, I did this really bad this week, but that's what that course called for. And that's what I did really bad. That's why I played bad.
Yeah.
So next year, let me kind of jot this down and come back and, okay, well, before even showing up to this event next year, I'm going to have this dialed in.
Right.
And just like little stuff like that.
Are there any specific things that you learned that you want to share with us? Or are these like top secret?
No.
Can't let the competition.
So, you know,
Bradley Williams.
Can't let it.
it's one thing to see a course on Jomez, right? And be like, oh, well, I could throw that same shot. And then you get there in person and you're like, oh, this is totally different than what it looks like on a video.
Yep.
It looks flat and it's 50 feet up a hill.
Right.
So I guess, you know, there's multiple courses that I played in person. It was like, wow, well, I totally wasn't prepared for this. You know, that week in my field work, I was doing this and I should have been doing this. So I think now the week before, you know, said event, it's kind of like, okay, well, now I know what I need to have dialed in.
Right.
To go into that week so I can be more prepared.
Do you think that as a result of that, do you think you'll have a little bit more expectations going into this season, or are you still, basically you're just going to be more prepared, but still limit the expectations?
I think I always like to limit my expectations. You know,
smart.
I think I always know my capabilities and know what I'm capable of. And kind of what I was talking about earlier, I always have that one thing that I'm trying to accomplish for that event. And I know if I accomplish this one thing, right, the result of me accomplishing this thing equals me playing and placing a little bit better.
Right.
So I think by kind of micro focusing on one little thing at each event and kind of stacking those things on top of each other, then it equals me having that good finish or big event.
Do you set those goals? Are they, what's the word? Is it like a tangible goal? Like if your goal for one weekend is to be, you know, to putt better than you did the weekend before, will you say, okay, this weekend I putted 80%, so I want to putt 85%? Or do you just say, I want to putt better. I want the putts to come out cleaner. I want more of them to go in the basket. If that's every single putt, great. If I go from 8 out of 10 to 9 out of 10, great. It just better. I just want improvement. Or is it, I need to be at 90% this week because I was at 80% last week?
Yeah, I mean, it's just something as simple as that. It's something that it takes the pressure off of saying, oh, I want to play well and I need to be in the top 10 or top 5. And it takes that pressure and it kind of puts it to the side because that's, you know, the result. But if I focus on this, it makes, you know, I know if I putt good, I'm probably going to place well.
Right.
Right? Like,
it'd be hard not to.
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, you know, there's some weeks where, you know, I putted good, but I didn't get off the tee well. So the next week, it's like, I still have the putting confidence. You know, I made a lot of putts for bogey. But
unfortunately, they were for bogey. But yes, they did go in the basket.
but I'm making them. So it's like, I know as long as I give myself putts for birdie, that I'm going to make them. So my next goal that week is going to be, okay, just give myself more putts from circle 1 or inside, you know, circle 2's edge and in. And then I'll be fine. And then I'll play well.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is it brings up an interesting topic that we've had a little bit of a debate on the show a few times before. Of what, if you were to, basically what's more important, getting off the tee and putting yourself in position to score, or scoring when you are in position. So basically, is driving more important or is putting more important?
For me, I feel like I'm always very consistent inside the circle, but I don't know what it is. As soon as I get to circle 2's edge, I will hit the basket every time, but they will not stay.
Okay.
I'll hit, you know, chain out left. Like, oh, okay, well, I just got to make this difference. And then I hit the band, or I just hit low. And then this time, oh, wow, I was too hard. So I hit right side and fell out. And it feels like there were a couple of events last year that if I would just had it 4 feet closer, I'd make every single one.
So you're on team driving.
I'm on team driving.
Yes.
Because I feel like
in your face, AJ.
I always putt consistent, right? I always have my little routine that I do and I go through it, you know, very routine. It's just there's those weeks where I'm 4 feet further than where I would like to be.
And that basket just shrinks.
And it almost gets annoying because I will hit the basket. You know, I had 8 circle 2 putts. Well, I hit basket on 8 of them.
Right.
So it's like my circle one putt, I'm not even having circle one putts.
Right. These are easy.
Huh.
Just put it
Yeah,
down.
well, I hit it, so I'm 2 feet away.
Mm.
But from circle two, it's like, I don't know. It just gets so annoying.
See, I'm right there with you. I think, and it's funny that you say that because you are a good putter and you find yourself, if you had just thrown a little bit better tee shot, then you'd be in a much more successful position where my game is the opposite. I can get myself off the tee. Once I get myself in the green, I'm usually there for a little while. And so I am like, well, driving's more important because if I can throw a good enough tee shot that I don't have to putt, I'm golden. Where McCabe was the opposite because he's a very good putter. Relatively speaking, he's a better putter than a driver. He's still a very good thrower of the disc, but he's on team putting because then it takes the pressure off of his tee shot. He doesn't have to throw as good of a tee shot because he can make the putt from anywhere.
Perspective.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Perspective. I think two things that I'm realizing when we bring this back up just now is the question should almost be, would you rather make all of the circle one putts or would you rather put all of your drives in circle one in regulation? And then from there, the determining factor is what the player is already and previously confident in most. So it's like, if you're confident in your putts, then you're going to say, yeah, put me in circle one, green in regulation.
That's what I would do.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
If you're like me and you're more confident in the drives, then yeah, I want the next thing that I need is the 100% circle one putting. So yeah, but it's still a really fun question to ask just about everybody and see how they feel, because then now that we determined, okay, yeah, you're more confident in your putts than your drives. Well, now you know what you can work on mentally when when you're laying in bed or when you're driving or when you're, reading and thinking. And like, I like to read some sports psychology books or just psychology in general books and try to apply those to my disc golf game. And a lot of times, yeah, it does come down to the things that we're confident in and the things about ourselves that we doubt. And so sometimes it gets to be a slippery slope, but when you can look at it objectively and take away the personal judgment, that's when you make that real progress. And so that's why I really do still enjoy this question. Like, would you rather have the 100% C1 putting or the 100% circle one in regulation? It's a fascinating question, especially when the more and more people that we ask, it just
keeps building.
Yeah.
I don't know the current official standings, but I think it's 3-2. I think we've got 3 on team driving. Mason, myself, and Danny. AJ and McCabe are on team putts.
Yeah, we forgot to ask.
We'll have to get Valerie.
Tennessee.
We'll have to get. Yeah, we'll keep it going. We'll keep track of this as it goes, and we'll see. Mason, are you ready?
Oh no,
it's
I'm
time.
ready.
We've got a game show, and it's your turn. You can't look at my screen because I have the answers right here.
Okay,
that's called cheating. Okay. This game is called How Well Does Mason Know Mason?
Oh no.
We've got questions for you about you. So if anyone knows these answers, it should be you. We're just going to test your knowledge of yourself. Are you ready?
I guess. Let's go for it.
As ready as we're going to be. Okay.
Yeah.
How many rounds this is across your sanctioned career? So X tiers, any sort of local minis or anything like that. These won't count. This is just sanctioned events career. How many rounds have you played that were rated below 900?
0.
That's correct.
Sweet.
Do you know what
fun fact?
That is a very impressive fact. Do you know what your first ever rating was?
919.
This is also true. You are doing much better than most.
I haven't played that long.
Mason knows Mason.
Yeah. So far, Mason knows Mason very well.
Ding, 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 ding.
What is your average finish across your entire career? Don't take into account
my average finish.
Yeah.
Oh
so
gosh.
Divisions don't count, just the average place.
I'm going to go with 22nd.
Oh, give yourself credit.
Really?
Uh-huh.
It's better. Oh, wow.
Give yourself a lot of credit.
8th.
Nailed it.
Really?
8th
Oh,
place.
wow. That's a good little average.
yeah.
That's
Heck
very
yeah.
good. Yeah.
Hey, again, it's relative though, because 22nd on the Pro Tour
Right.
rankings. Boom.
Sure.
I guess
You're,
maybe
you're
that's
playing
my
in
first.
Charlotte. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is your highest rated round? I'll accept the rating or the event / round. Was it round 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, or the rating that round was given? Or both if you want bonus points.
I want to say it was round 3 Norman Pro-Am 1068.
That is 0 points for you, Mason.
Oh.
I apologize. Your highest rated round was 1071.
Oh, wow.
It was round 1, 2021, Music City.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
1071. Pretty good. See, 1070 golf doesn't stink. 1050 golf, garbage tier. 1070 golf, very good.
Yeah, 1070 golf. That's like lavender and daffodils.
Yes. So this is a question that I have not asked anyone. This is something that might be a new question for the show. It might not be. It was a little bit difficult to find this answer, but do you know the highest? So this is across an event. The highest rating average across an event that you played that you did not win.
Oh,
Do you
That
know
I did not win.
that you did not win? Do you know what that event
Man, that's a tough
was,
question.
Ooh, it,
or what the rating was?
it would be.
You have averaged this across an event 3 times.
Dang. So probably Worlds, Memorial. I can't think what the third would be.
What years?
Oh, both last year.
Okay.
Both of them were in 21.
So you're correct with the Memorial. 2021 Memorial, you averaged 1051.
Okay.
You also averaged 1051 at Music City last year. And then you averaged 1053 at the 2020 Holy Rocks, but you won both of those events. So does not count. Okay. It's time, Mason, for the final question.
final question.
This is always the hardest question. That's why we always put it last. This is
Okay.
one that people have gotten close on, but nobody has gotten it correct just yet.
Hardest question.
In your sanctioned career, from your first PDGA event until your most recent PDGA event, what is the total number of strokes that you have had?
Yeah, right?
Well, that's why it's the hardest question.
I will give you half credit if you would like to know the number of events that you've played.
I think I've played like 98.
I can confirm or deny that for half credit if you'd like.
Neither. Total strokes.
And then I'll give you an extra point question after this if you'd like.
Let's go. Over 98 events. Let's go. 6,523.
Oh, you're low.
I'm low.
You're low.
I guess I think I'm way better than I am.
Throw in a couple of 4-round events in there.
Oh, that's true. Let's go. 8,200 and even more? Oh my goodness. 9,000? 10.
It's over 9,000.
It's a lot. It's okay. That almost sounded very bad. It's not that it's a lot of strokes. It's just
more than I thought.
more than you think.
Oh my goodness. Is it like 12,000?
It's even more than that.
No way.
It's more than that.
See, because at first I thought 12,000. I was like, no, that's ridiculous. 15,000? 15,000.
15,336.
Oh my goodness.
And you were correct with 98 events.
See, at least I knew
Somehow
that.
nailed that one. Yeah. Okay. So do you want the extra credit question?
Let's see it.
Do you think that your total strokes is higher or lower than Valerie's?
I think she's played more events than me. So I'm gonna go lower.
That's correct. You have thrown less total strokes than Valerie.
She probably played more events too. She's probably 112.
Let me double check on her total. So I won't tell you her total strokes yet because you might be cheating and I don't want to give her any bonus questions.
I wouldn't do that.
No cheating allowed here. Let me quickly look up how many events she has played.
That's so interesting, though. It's like there's competition throws and then there's practice throws.
Right. And it doesn't break down how many of those are OB strokes, how many of those are strokes for this or that. It's just strokes. So Valerie has played 95 events.
Oh my goodness,
so
I played
you got
more.
her beat by 3. Yeah.
Wow. See, so what gets me is because I used to run a lot.
Yeah.
So I always used to think about, I had a runner's log. So I used to keep a log of, this is the workout that I did. This is my average mile pace. Or, we did this strength and conditioning workout and this is the number of reps. All this. I had composition books. I probably still have them somewhere. And so it was always, not just the number of miles, but the quality of the miles that I ran.
Mm-hmm.
So in disc golf, I think sometimes, how many miles have I thrown?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because think,
A lot.
right? That's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder if my arm has more miles than my legs.
Whoa.
Ooh, that would be interesting.
You know what I mean? I think about that probably too much.
That'd be interesting to figure. Good luck ever doing the math on that.
Right.
But that would be interesting. Maybe that'll be next year's final question of like total distance that you've played disc golf. I don't know how I'm going to find that answer.
Gosh.
That'd be pretty, because, you go to the PDGA and you can do little, you hold round one.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, course par was this at this course
Right.
and this many feet.
It's true.
It'd take a lot of work.
If
but
you
can
could
do it.
lower that 98 events down to about 10 or 15, then yeah, I could probably get that for you.
Yeah, you could do that for 1 year. One
We could do
season.
that for a year. That'd be doable. All right.
Still
We will see. Come 2023 season, Mason, when you come back to Emporia, be prepared. Keep track of your total distances.
I'm gonna have
and we'll
to.
see.
have to do some research.
Bring your composition books.
Right. Yeah. Yup. All right, Mason, thank you so much for sitting down with us. Where can people follow you on social media if they want to tag along and see your journey?
I think I'm not very good at this.
Okay.
My Instagram name, I think it's Mason Ford, and my PDGA number.
Is it 72844?
That would be it.
Okay. Yes, that is. It's Mason.Ford, I believe.
Yep.
72844. Go ahead and follow Mason. Thank you for joining us, Mason. It has been a pleasure. Best of luck to you on the road this season. I'm sure we will see you at many stops and do this again. But until then, good luck, AJ.
Hey, guess what I had for lunch today?
Panda.
#ad, #panda partner. Guessed it.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Danny, thank you for running everything. We will see everybody next week.
Bye.